Hello and welcome. I don't think anyone has joined yet. The 7 participants. Hello, I think we've got a couple of people joining.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, we haven't just got you on camera, so we're just working through our slight technical issues. Just wait for the last couple of attendees to come in. Wonderful. Skip ahead. If we've got a hand up. Lovely. I think we are just going to kick off. First off, apologies for the technical. I can't switch that now. There you go. Yeah, apologies for the technical issues. We've had a last-minute change of host due to sickness. So I'm stepping in. I'm Kia. I've been at Checkatrade for about 5 years, and I work as an engineering manager. It's all about people focus, about process, and about delivery. And that's kind of my role at Checkatrade. I'm joined here by Giri. Introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kia. Thank you so much. So, hello, everyone. My name is Giridhar Rajkumar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from different location. So, I've been in Checkatrade for past 1.5 years and have been working as a senior QA. It's a great journey, great experience working with different set of stakeholders within the Checkatrade. And yeah, I've been working in this industry for over 15 years and have been practicing test automation and non-functional testing as well. So this webinar is going to be pretty interesting, and it's going to be a great information for you guys, where we started looking into the QA ops, and we just wanted to share you guys with some of our experiences and some of the challenges and mitigations that we have been taking to implement the QA ops across Checkatrade actually. So yeah, pretty excited about the webinar, Kia. So yeah, let's get started then.
Perfect. So yeah, we've kind of covered this. It would have been Gareth here who would have been introducing it, but yeah, you've got me instead, without the mustache, sadly. So taking through the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about Checkatrade. I know you're joined for the QA stuff. That's the really interesting stuff. That's what Gary's here for. But I'm going to give you a quick overview of kind of who Checkatrade are, just so you've kind of got a bit of context about who we are and what we do. And then we'll move through the quality assurance stuff. We've got a special guest talk, which will be exciting. And the end of the session will be Q&A. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the question section of the meeting, and we will definitely cover them at the end. Cool, let's get going. So about Checkatrade. It all started with a storm, actually, in Selsey about 25 years ago. Selsey is a small town on the south coast of England. There was a really bad storm. Loads of tradesmen turned up, got deposits for repairing roofs, repairing fences and stuff, and disappeared. And it caused a lot of outrage in the town. And it became one man's mission to kind of stop these rogue traders who were scamming people, ripping people off. So that's where we kind of began. It began with a paper directory, literally him going and scribbling people's names down on a bit of paper and going, these are the trades I trust. And it's evolved from there. We moved on to the digital space quite a long time ago, and that's been working really well for us. So we work as an introductory organization introducing homeowners to trades, and that's specifically trusted trades, people who we've checked and vetted, and that reputation is kind of a really key part of what we do at Checkatrade. We're going into a more digital marketplace style thing, and our CEO has been on Sky News talking about this. It's all about making sure that consumers and trades are getting the best experience. So we're helping people along in the journey of getting home repairs completed. And that's kind of what we're really passionate about, is making sure that it's a no-brainer. You're going to go and get your Windows sorted out, because it's easier to do it on the app than it is to ignore it. That's where we want to get to. That it's just such a delightful experience.
Wonderful.
We've been quite a big journey. If you look back 10 years ago, we had like a long period of like pure .NET on-prem servers. It was kind of steady as went. Very small team, kind of 4 engineers for like quite a long time. And then about 6 years ago now, there was a large investment from HomeServe, and we made a real effort to kind of modernize our platform. We moved into the cloud, so we were using AWS, we use a bit of GCP. Our philosophy is all about using the right tool for the job. So we've got plenty of C# hanging around. We use TypeScript. We use sort of some front-end technologies. We've got React for a lot of our front-end. We use React Native for building iOS and Android apps. Data, again, right tool for the job. We've got some old SQL databases. We use Postgres, BigTable, and Firestore, some alternatives, whatever the situation calls for. Other key philosophies for us is we use Docker to allow us to be kind of tech agnostic and be able to deploy anywhere. And serverless is another key part of that, which is we don't get bogged down with sort of infrastructure and stuff. We make the use of functions to deploy code, and we use Cloud Run and stuff, which is GCP's serverless offering for running a Dockerized container. Super passionate in engineering about collaborating with products. We use a lot of Jira and their discovery tool to help sort of streamline the process of bringing product ideas into the delivery phase. And then, of course, our good friends at Design, heavy use of Figma and design systems within our system. Another key tenet of Checkatrade's engineering pillar is metrics. So we use a tool called Linear B to help us understand our processes, help refine and iterate our processes. So as much as we use data to help steer our product decisions, we also help it steer our own internal processes. And Gary will talk a lot more in detail about the QA metrics that we use in the report.
Yeah.
Finally, the kind of products we offer, just to be the kind of things that we're building for. Lead generation is one of the core business practices. That's paper directories, digital directories, and helping members optimize their profile and making sure that they're presenting the best storefront to the world. Reviews, again, coming back to that trusted aspect, we really care about the feedback consumers give. It helps bring validity to the trades and make sure that people can trust the members on our platform. We're moving to Space's SaaS offering. So we're offering a quotes and invoicing tool to members. So I'm a new trader who's just started out. Rather than going and buying one of these big quotes and invoicing tools off the shelf, I get that for free with Checkatrade. That's a wonderful kind of add-on that we can help encourage new businesses and support new businesses with these tools to make it kind of a no-brainer to be part of the Checkatrade ecosystem and get the most out of their membership with us. Finally, I talked about that end-to-end platform. We're trying to improve our jobs management to make sure that trades and consumers, homeowners are getting prompts at the right time. They get supported through that journey, so it's as seamless and smooth as possible. So this is kind of where a lot of our energy is going at the moment. And that kind of sums up the introduction section. So I'm going to hand over to you, Gary, to kind of talk us through quality assurance. Give you the clicker.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So yeah, I think we'll get started from the history of what the quality assurance that has been doing in Checkatrade actually. So So I think 6 to 7 years back is when we started going more digital actually, where we started developing our mobile apps, web apps and stuff. So literally what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring in a QA practice that's been done by most of our business people actually, right? So literally for the past 6 to 8 years, we have been practicing QA as manual testing actually, right? So most of the testing that has been done, that was being done in Checkatrade was completely manual, right? So what we really wanted to bring in is since 2022, we just started revolutionizing the way that we are doing quality assurance. So what we wanted to do is we really wanted to bring in the automate first approach, which is the basic for any quality assurance that is there in the industry today, right? So that's where we thought we'll just start bringing this particular test automation. But unfortunately, we were facing a lot of challenges actually. The challenges being that the testers whom we were having in the teams were having slight competency issues with the test automation tools and frameworks that are there in the industry actually. In fact, we did lots and lots of research to make sure that which tool is best fit for all the requirements actually. So we have done a proper detailed analysis to make sure that the tool that we are selecting is future-proof as well, rather than just checking for that particular day or for that particular year. We just wanted to see what is the future for that particular tool. And we are open source enthusiasts, so we really wanted to bring in an open source here. So we'll talk about the tools and frameworks in the upcoming slides. But again, the main challenge what we faced was ad hoc test process as well, Kia. So literally, if you remember, we had that issue of having where to write the test cases, where we would be, writing all the defects, where we'll be writing, how we will be talking to the developers, how are we going to fix it, when are we going to fix it, and so on and so forth, right? So during the gap analysis, we really identified that this is also one of the major problem actually. So we just started thinking about how are we going to mitigate this particular issue of making the QA as a process itself within Checkatrade actually, right? So 2023 was a revolutionary year again for us, because that's where we started thinking more about, testing process, test automation, engaging our developers, and so on and so forth. So in 2023, our CTO has come up with a great idea of making, QA as part of the product and engineering team itself, actually, which is a great idea because if you see in most of the organizations, what's happening today is QA is not a separate department as it. So it's part of the engineering department where we bring in the practice of the ownership between everyone, actually, everyone in the sense, all stakeholders of that particular team, like developers, staff engineers, engineering managers, product owners, product business managers, everyone actually. So it's the overall responsibility of those stakeholders to take care of the quality assurance, right? So
that's quite a big change from where we were. It was 100% QA would do some manual testing.
Yeah.
To what you're describing now was a very
Exactly,
big
yes. So that's a huge transition that we are undergoing, right? So we can't do it overnight, actually, right? So that's where we just wanted to take a step back. Gap analysis is something that I'm insisting a lot for folks to start thinking about who's going to do this kind of transitions, because gap analysis is the source of truth for us, Kia, to understand what is happening, what is it we need to improve, what is it we can focus on in future, and what is the next 1 year plan actually for that particular activity. So we took last 3 to 6 months, guys, to focus on this particular activity of doing a gap analysis to understand what is pending or what is missing within quality assurance, right? Yeah. So after that, what we did was like we came up with a plan actually. So this is how we did. So we came up with a proper plan of defining TMMI, which is test maturity model, which is there in the industry as a standard, which has 5 different levels to measure your quality assurance, implementations in Checkatrade actually. So what we did was we took that model, we tailored it to our requirement actually within Checkatrade on what is it we have, how are we going to achieve the maturity levels from 1 till 5 actually. So literally, we did that particular exercise and we started talking to individual teams within trade pillar to understand what is that they have as part of testing and sort of the quality assurance and what is not there actually in order to reach that particular advanced levels actually. So we did that kind of an analysis. We are still doing those kind of analysis across different teams actually, because it's, like I said, it's not an overnight job, right? So it's going to be continuously monitored everywhere. So we did that exercise. We identified the issues, and that's when we started engaging our developers as well as part of this actually. So like I said earlier, our vision is to take out the QA as a department and then embed directly into the engineering, right? So that's a huge step that we have taken, and that's where we need to engage our developers as well. So literally, not like I said earlier, it's not just the ownership of testers anymore. It's going to be developers as well actually. So we kind of wanted to shift left rather than, taking everything as a backlog and then doing it later point of time. So that's where we engaged our developers as well. So the thing is, we can't engage developers directly saying that, hey, come and do testing actually. That's not the right way of doing, right? So we need to think about how are we going to engage them actually. So that's where we came up with lots and lots of lunch and learn sessions actually for the past 6 months. We have been training developers with testing and test automation concepts actually. So right from what is white box testing, black box testing, till automation tools, what we are using, and the frameworks, what we are using. So we have been training our developers, staff engineers to take care of their own team, and not just to stop there actually. We just wanted them to be more matured such a way that for every PR that we are raising, for every commit that we are raising, there should be a testing entity that is involved as part of CI/CD pipeline. So that's the ultimate future that we wanted to bring in. And apart from that, we just wanted to make sure that the QA ops, which we are going to talk about in in the upcoming slides, is something that we have devised or designed to make sure our Checkatrade's quality assurance goals are getting fulfilled actually. So that's the ultimate goal we have. While doing this exercise, we have learned a lot actually, right, Kia? So you must be knowing. So we started, thinking about wider concepts like Blitz testing, where we engaged the entire stakeholders. You won't believe, guys, we have been, researching a lot with regards to the Blitz testing. So Blitz testing is a glorified UAT testing. But again, we are doing it in a different way actually. So we don't involve only UAT testers or any testing team to do this particular activity of testing. So we engage every level of individual in the company, right?
Yeah. If you've got a feature, you should be confident enough that your CEO can use it. If you're giving it to your users, you might as well give it to your boss.
Absolutely, yes. So the thing is, like, we started engaging our CTOs, our head of engineering, our engineering managers, everyone to do this particular Blitz testing. So that's the engagement that we from Checkatrade want to give our customers from the quality perspective, actually. So everyone in Checkatrade is doing testing, in fact. So that's the level of maturity we are moving in. So we are doing a pretty good job actually, isn't it? So we are just moving towards that particular activity of engaging everyone in the testing. So we have been doing researches, lots of learnings, guys, lots and lots of learnings, right, to address and to mitigate few issues and so on and so forth. So we didn't stop there actually. Blitz testing is not, that's something that we want to do actually, but again we have started doing exploratory testing, which is not quite new in the industry. It's quite an olden, principle or concept that is there in the testing industry. But again, I think if we are engaging ourselves in the new ways of working that I told earlier, like engaging the entire stakeholders to do this particular testing, I personally believe that we need to have exploratory testing concepts as well, actually. So to make sure in every sprint level or every feature level, we need to make sure that that particular feature is tested completely actually before it goes to the next environment or prod environment. So that's where the exploratory testing comes into picture. Mostly exploratory will be manual. It's not, test automation based, right? So I'll touch upon automation in a bit, guys. So from this is the overall, process wise, we have improved a lot since last 6 months. Lots of research has been gone here. Lots of, implementations have been gone here. Lots of stakeholders have been involved in this particular thing. In fact, if I remember right, we have involved our end users as well to check the job screens actually. So I think we engage our real-time users as well who are real trades for Checkatrade to do this kind of testing as well, so that we can get some feedback from them and then try to implement what they wanted, isn't it, Kia? So yeah, so this is from the process perspective, what we have been implementing from testing. But again, how are we going to measure it actually, right? So that's quite interesting one, because gone those days, tell me how many test cases you executed, tell me how many test cases you automated. So those days are gone actually, right? So being in a faster delivery company and faster delivery, faster delivering world, we just wanted to make sure that the metrics that we are capturing from QA perspective is also up to the mark actually, right? So we can't just go and take some metrics that are no more useful for us, isn't it? So what we have done is, we have two types of metrics. One is prod metrics, non-prod metrics. So the prod metrics, we use DORA metrics, which eventually helps us out in understanding different set of, metrics that we want, like MTTR, and we have LTC, and we have CFR as well, which is going to help us out to understand the quality that we are trying to push it to production actually. So this is something that is very, very helpful for us to look into during the incident management as well, right? Yeah, so we can just try to look into it. So that's the prod metrics that we are trying to do here. And yeah.
Just want to touch on that because that was one of the key bits of when we moved away from having dedicated QAs.
Exactly.
We didn't want to have a drop in quality. Yeah. So we measure how quickly we're deploying, but yeah, the handbrake to that is not just go quick. It's how often do we get bugs in production? How often deployments fail and ask like CI/CD pipeline. So it's really useful to get that insight.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Quality wasn't dropping. That was kind of the key outcome there.
Absolutely. Yes. That's the ultimate goal that we were just focusing in order to make sure that our quality is not getting affected at all, right? So this is from the prod, which is great actually, but just before prod is what we need to focus a lot, right? So that's where we started bringing in test automation actually. So test automation is the key pillar for any testing activity at this point of time, right? Having automated regression packs, being a digital company ourselves, right? We have products in Android, iOS, and web applications as well, right? So we need to make sure that our users who are using different devices or different browsers or different platforms or different, operating systems, we need to make sure that everything is getting covered. So literally what we wanted to do is like we started utilizing, different tools that are there, cloud-based tools that are there, which I'm just going to touch upon, where we started running our own automated tests across different devices and platforms actually, isn't it? So that's going to give us a great coverage actually. So how are we going to achieve it, right? So that's the main thing actually. So like I said earlier, we can't wait till all the test cases to be automated are getting backlogged actually. So all we need to do is bring in sprint automation concept. So in trade pillar, where we are just focusing on, we are trying to bring in, we have in fact we have brought in a couple of concepts of in-sprint automation where our developers started writing automation scripts, isn't it? So that's a huge step that we have taken actually after we just eradicated the dedicated QA team actually, isn't it? So literally speaking, apart from this, what we wanted is like monitoring system actually. So the test cases that are running in the lower environment to be monitored. That's where we really wanted to bring in the concept of observability actually. So the browser stack, which one we are using at the moment to run all our test cases across different platforms and devices, is offering a beautiful tool called a test observability. So observability is a concept in which we try to monitor the test cases that are getting executed on daily basis or a scheduled basis to see what kind of failures that are coming up. And then we are categorizing it depending on the failures actually. It could be product bug, it could be your automation script bug, or it could be anything actually. So we just wanted to make sure that all these things are getting addressed. So literally when it comes next time, it will be able to tell us, hey, I found this on that day. I think it's similar to this one. Why don't you go and fix it actually? So we can just try to understand like what are the repetitive defects that we are getting in fact, so that we can just focus on fixes in fact.
It's fantastic as well as if you're running a product team, you want to be told straight away if like my bit is failing and someone else, to get that insight is super useful.
Absolutely, yes. So the monitoring of these things are quite interesting because so literally what I have seen in my experience is like any team that is there should have turns to monitor the tests actually. Now, say for example, person A can do it in one sprint, person B can do it in another sprint. So they can just do it on a rotational basis to monitor those tests, which eventually down the line after 6 months or 1 year, it will be a great asset actually. In fact, so if you see the last topic over here, which is the test audits, right? That's quite interesting because during the in-sprint, what we do is like we might have a number of test cases actually, but probably after 2 or 3 sprints, we don't have to have that many test cases, which eventually takes much time to execute, right? So we need to do these kind of test audits to make sure that not all test cases are relevant at that particular situation. So eradicate those test cases, make some things that are relevant to that particular, build, and then run them, which eventually saves a lot of time actually, right? So we run it on nightly basis, right, Kia? So we run it at 1 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock at night every day, actually. So across Android, iOS, and web applications. So literally, that's the level of maturity we are just trying to, move towards from the test automation perspective, actually, guys. So we use predominantly WebDriver IO for web applications and APM for mobile applications, actually, right? And Thunder Client for API testing. We use a little bit of Playwright and Postman as well in some areas. But our ultimate goal is to make sure that automation first approach is getting implemented at this point of time, actually. So, so this is the QA ops architecture that we have been designing for Checkatrade, actually, where we just wanted to make sure that the testing is getting completed, actually, right? So this is one of the industry standards which has been, used across different organizations. So we also wanted to bring in this kind of an activity of having all these kind of, entities. So literally we have 2 segments. One is CI/CD pipelines, where we wanted to make sure that for every commit that a developer is doing, we need to run a smoke test, a sanity test, and if required, regression test. So literally we are getting into the pipeline implementation. So we will get there very soon. So because I think most of the pipelines are already built. So so this is something that is quite interesting, where we wanted to make sure that all the test cases and all the entities that are being shown here are executed at that particular phase, actually, right? Second type is the scheduled test cases, actually. When I say scheduled test cases, I mean to say that we wanted our test cases. See, you cannot execute hundreds of test cases during the build pipeline, right? It's going to take ages to do that, actually. So what we have done is we have made sure that all the regression pack, which is almost like 200, 300 test cases, to run every night, actually, rather than running it during the build pipeline, actually. So literally we are executing it in the morning, like I said. And then eventually we are trying to reduce the 250 to 300 count to 150, actually. So that's something that we have to work on using the test audit, analysis, and then try to get these things sorted out. So I think it's pretty interesting to know all these concepts, actually, so that we can just try to implement and trial it out, isn't it, Kia? So
I think it's been a great one as well, because some of these concepts, especially some of the non-functional testing
Exactly.
on this pipeline, is not natural to every developer. There's some concepts in there that are a bit more QA specialist. So that's one of the bits that you add value to the department. And then you also, work with the teams to kind of embed that knowledge in.
Yeah. Because we're talking from testing perspective, but we need to talk from NFT as well, actually, right? So non-functional testing is something that we are doing actually. So we have kickstarted, accessibility testing. So we have been integrating it with our test automation framework, which eventually scans for any accessibility violations during the automation script itself. So we are in that particular maturity level where most of us are using visual testing, right? Visual testing is the concept of checking whether the elements in the particular screen are coming up in the right place and, it's not getting distorted and stuff. So we have been integrating it with the automation framework itself. But again, we need to make sure that we are doing few things in isolation. When I say isolation, we need to make sure that we are trying to do NFT like performance testing, security testing in an isolation. But again, we can eradicate few of the issues that we are finding during the isolation in the early stage itself. So that's where the concept of early performance and early security comes into picture. So that's where we are trying to do here, and we are almost nailing it. We have done all the POCs and we just have to start implementing it, right? So that's a place where we think we can achieve this particular QA ops strategy actually. So what are the challenges and mitigations that we have been following? So of course, yes, it's a huge transition. It's a huge transition, right? So definitely we need to talk a little bit about the ownership actually, right? So literally like we teams work in silos, but when it comes to end-to-end testing, that's where the challenge comes into picture. So we made that, we learned a lot of lesson when it comes to, end-to-end testing folks. That's where we started bringing in, a dedicated QA, a dedicated, role to do this particular end-to-end testing. And we started engaging the developers across different teams to do this end-to-end testing as well. Forget about them. Let's bring the business actually. That's what we did, right? So we brought in all the product owners. We brought in business end users to do all the kind of testing that we wanted actually. So it's a great effort, and we have identified almost like 50, 60 issues within no time actually. So that's the level of things that we need to move on, in fact, so that we can fix all those issues before it goes to the production, isn't it? So yeah, another one, like I said earlier, we need to start having a standardized QA process on what is that we have to do from the pull request perspective, and what is it we need to do from automation perspective. When are we going to raise production defects? When are we going to write regression defects, and so on and so forth. Another major thing what I have seen within Checkatrade is, good thing about Checkatrade is we have standardized the toolings actually. So like I said earlier, we have a future proof actually. So if you take WebDriver, it has been backed up by major companies at this point of time actually. So Browser Stack is one of the organization who's helping WebDriver to promote actually and to maintain. So that's a great one in fact. So not only that, we have standardized tools. We are not bringing in any new tools at the moment. There are no new, business case as well to bring in anything new. So we have been following this one. Try to do these guys in your organizations as well, so that we can just standardize it. Like, yeah.
Definitely. It's a very exciting slide now. So everyone wants to know what's coming next.
Exactly. Yeah. Future of QA, right? At Checkatrade. It's quite interesting. I always get interested, enthusiastic when it comes to the future of QA actually. So see, from Checkatrade perspective, what we have done till now is always focusing on faster deliveries, right? So QA should not be a bottleneck for us at all. So we have been working on these solutions to make sure that our delivery is getting delivered faster and with more quality as well actually. So we don't have to worry about anything over here. And another major thing is like we have QA innovations. So where we are just trying to do, we have brought in a new framework as well, right? The CATS Force, which is amazing for Salesforce. So we have been developing this particular framework, which we are going to make it open source, guys, very soon. So we'll keep you guys posted. Just follow us in LinkedIn, so you'll be able to get the update on that as well. The next one is the GenAI solutions. Oh my God, that's amazing actually. So we can just we have started thinking about GenAI solutions that are available in the market, to think how we are going to make use of these solutions within quality assurance perspective, like creating step definitions, creating page objects, which are related to are specific to Checkatrade, not specific to the a larger scale actually. So we need to be more specific, and we have started doing several POCs. We are training a couple of models. We have local GPTs that are there. We are training those models to see what we can do. A huge POCs in progress actually. So yeah, that's what is going to happen actually.
Yeah.
So
lots of questions on AI, but I'll probably guess. I'm guessing there might be some questions in the chat, so we'll hold off on that.
But yeah. So I have Chantal actually, who's our special guest. So she's going to talk us about her transformation within Checkatrade, being a member advisor to the associate engineer. Chantal, thank you so much for joining us. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Good. So I'm Chantal. And I've been at Checkatrade for almost 10 years. So I first started off in customer service, with very little technical knowledge. Kind of wanted a new opportunity, new challenge, and yeah, the IT support job role came up, which I applied for, which obviously was a big risk for me, obviously having very little experience. And then yeah, so at that time there was no QA. Literally just 3 of us in IT support, and then very quickly I kind of transitioned into testing as part of the fortnightly software releases. So it was very manual at first. So it's been really nice to hear kind of how far testing has evolved within Checkatrade. Obviously, of seeing it from the start to now where we are now. So yeah, so within those last 8 years, I've kind of gained experience in automation, which our mobile app, web apps, backend, and now I'm at the very early stages of starting my career in front-end development, which I'm really enjoying. So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I've seen a lot of changes, right? In your career, getting into a starting as a non-technical role and getting into a technical role, doing QA, and how your QA experience is, there in the associate engineer role. So it's an amazing work, right? So
yeah, no, it's been a really good journey, and also I'm very thankful to Checkatrade for obviously believing in me and giving me that time to be able to progress. But yeah, completely having no experience whatsoever to kind of now where I am. Yeah, so yeah, I'm really pleased with that.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Thank you so much. And see, at Checkatrade, what we strongly believe is we just wanted people to get evolved right from their career actually. So that's where Chantal is a great example, and we have so many people within Checkatrade who has done this kind of a transformation, isn't it, Kia? So yeah,
there's a reason we want to bring her in, and again I think she exemplifies the attitude you need to adopt this kind of QA within a team. You need that person who's going to think about quality, who's going to think about things while they're doing the dev work, and Chantal brought so much value all the way through every role she's had at Checkatrade. She's brought that same ethos of improving the product and improving that.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Thanks, Chantal. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's go for questions.
Yeah, we're going to do some questions. Apologies, I'm going to lean forward because to read the questions. So we've got one from Barry, not a question, but thank you for sharing us through the journey at Checkatrade. Yeah, hopefully we've been able to kind of share our kind of way through. So inexperience requires a really high bar for engineering maturity to be successful. It is, however, to see you start with a QA ops strategy and some of the automation architecture in places to help you achieve your goals. Yeah, thank you very much, Barry. It's quite
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, absolutely.
As Gary said, I think we were always there at the highest level. There were gaps. So some teams were doing a really great job at some bits, and other teams were doing other bits really well.
Exactly, yeah.
There was an effort to kind of standardize our learning across the teams.
Definitely, yes. Yeah. See, the thing is like I said, a couple of challenges, right? So the thing is everyone have their own idea of implementing it, right? So we need to understand, we need to listen from everyone's thought process, and then we need to come up with a common solution that's going to help Checkatrade to grow from the quality assurance perspective. In fact, so that's how we have derived the QA ops architecture as well, actually. So we have engaged people like Kia. So there are n number of engineering managers within Trade Pillar, and all the efforts that we have put in as part of QA ops is completely from the engineering management as well, actually. So head of engineering and everyone. So literally that architecture is going to be the future, not only for Checkatrade. I believe that's the dream, architecture for many organizations, actually, right, Kia? So yeah, thanks, Barry. Thank you so much for that, actually.
Cool. We've got some comments in the chat, so I'll just have a quick look at that. I think this has come from Pia. So did the developers show any resistance to doing QA as part of their job?
Not resistance as a thing actually. So that's a great thing. It's not a resistance. It's about the maturity of developers, right? So at Checkatrade, what we strongly believe is like I said earlier, everyone's responsibility is everything, right? So there was no big resistance as such because we planned things accordingly actually. So literally what we did, we started having the lunch and learn sessions. We started engaging developer level, peer programming actually when it comes to testing. So literally when we had our developers writing our automated tests after the training, right? Definitely it's something like either me or, Chantal or someone will sit directly with the developers and help them out in writing the test cases actually. So the automated test cases basically, because they are quite new to WebDriver IO, right? So, and at times, like people will be from C# background, so they will have to learn JavaScript or TypeScript and then implement it. So we had crash courses as well as part of that. We had refresher courses. We have so many things that we have planned accordingly. And then that's how we just made sure that developers are not showing any resistance as such. Not resistance, like they're not getting frustrated actually. So we need to make sure that the developers are also engaged as part of, testing in fact. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I think it's a culture thing as well. I think
definitely
through our juniors and our mids, it's something we coach, and then our seniors we definitely look for in the hiring process, which
definitely,
is that desire that as an engineer, they know the quality is there. So the thing I always drum into people is you should be confident enough in your code that you could push it to production without anyone else looking at it.
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
If you can give that engineer good tools and good ways of tracking if it's going to be successful, it's going to make them quicker and happier. You just have to give them the coaching and the teaching to
exactly, yes. Yeah. So the key event is the trainings, guys. So we need to train folks to make sure that they are getting adapted to the QA strategies and practices as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there's any more questions in the section. So anonymous attendee, how do you manage engineers making changes to the application without an equivalent test being introduced to the regression deck?
Okay, how do you manage engineers making changes to the application without an equivalent test being introduced to the regression pack? Okay, that's a great question actually. So literally what we are trying to do here is, like I said earlier, we have that PR, right? PR is the place where we are just putting a checkpoint whether there is a UI test case or any regression test case that needs to be added as part of the regression pack. So literally what is happening here is it's the developer's role. So it's a developer's responsibility to make sure that the feature that he's building has the test automated scripts as well as part of that. So literally he has his own local regression pack which runs for this particular feature. And then once everything is working fine, he can just push that code directly to the regression pack, the overall regression pack, which will run on daily basis actually. So literally the developer who's going to push the code will do all these kind of testing and then pushes it to the entire regressions actually. So I think that's how we are doing it, right? Yeah,
I think so. I think one of the things that worked really well for us is having champions as advocates within the team.
Yeah.
They're going to call out their fellow developers. You need just tech leads to be able to bake it into the tech leads job spec that they have to be responsible for the quality. They're going to be checking. They're going to be encouraging that behavior. The second you start repeating that message, people get it very quickly.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Cool.
Hopefully that answered your question. If you've got any more questions, please do chuck them in the Q&A section. We're happy to kind of talk them through now. There was a couple more in the chat. So what level of QA activities are expected from a dev?
Interesting. So the thing is like, like I said, again, it's a mindset change, right? We need to bring in more testing artifacts, right? From unit testing till the regression testing, right? So one thing what we wanted to make sure is like everyone in the organization knows the test automation pyramid actually. So till now in many organizations, what I have seen is like in the test automation pyramid, developers just focus on the unit tests perspective, actually, not from the API testing or from the UI testing perspective. But in Checkatrade, it's a different ball game altogether, actually. So we have started thinking about making our developers to understand the automation pyramid and contribute across all different layers of test automation, actually, like unit test cases, API test cases, and the UI test cases, actually. I know that in test automation pyramid is conceptually great, but again, when it comes to edge cases management and other stuffs, we need to have more UI test cases is what I believe. Of course, we have lots of unit test cases that we are writing from the edge cases perspective, but again, thinking about the end user's perspective, we need to make sure from the UI test cases, we have more test cases as well that are being covered, because end of the day, that's the screen our users are going to see, right? So that's where, like I strongly believe that developers start with unit testing, API testing, and have more UI test cases as well to make sure that everything is working fine. So these are the levels that I believe that developers will be going forward in the future as well.
Yeah. On that note, I think it's one of the bits that we've had is we've definitely covered the happy paths. Developers naturally do the happy path.
Yeah.
Trying to nudge people into making sure we're covering those edge cases has been a challenge.
Exactly, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where, sorry, I think that's where we have started involving product owners, isn't it? So literally the product owners will review all the test cases during the test audit, and they give us, any hint, or they give us the scenarios that we are missing actually, which we can just add it on, which we can just top it up actually, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's also a good maturity model.
Yeah. So you mentioned the question was kind of what activities are devs expected to do. You mentioned a lot of functional testing.
Yeah.
What kind of non-functional testing do devs do?
One major thing is accessibility testing. From a digital company perspective, accessibility is very, very important for us actually. And second thing is the performance testing actually. So literally what we anticipate is like there are so if you take Checkatrade, we focus on the security and the performance of the application as well, right? So literally we need to do a couple of early performance testing as well and early security testing as well to make sure that there are no issues and we can detect it earlier itself. So once we get to the maturity state, we can just put those early performance testing, early security testing into our pipelines actually. So literally your system is being monitored for performance as well as for security. And like I said earlier, we have accessibility testing integrated directly to our test automation framework. So literally all NFT in one place actually. So yeah.
Super.
Cool.
Cool. Couple more questions coming in. So let's have a look at those. Oh no, sorry, we've answered those two. Yeah, again, if you've got any questions, please chuck them in the chat. Let's go back to that one. So from a QA ops perspective, when should we do a smoke test and a sanity test? And that's a good one because could you tell me the difference? Because it's one I always struggle with.
Yeah, see, smoke test is different and sanity test is different. So literally, like it's tomato and tomatoes actually, but again, in reality, it's different. So literally, smoke test is a pack in which you just cover few happy path scenarios. Yeah. So now, say for example, you have a feature A. So you have some happy paths to make sure that feature A is working. Likewise for feature B, feature C, feature D. You have happy paths to make sure that all these features are working. That's it. That's smoke test. If you take sanity test, that's where, like you need to do an impact analysis. Now, say for example, you're modifying something in feature B. And you know that it's going to impact feature C and feature D. So what you have to do is during your PR, since we are a huge fan of BDD, right? Behavior driven development, we use Cucumber framework here, right? We can just add the tags that we wanted to execute as part of that particular build. Now, say for example, if you're going to push this build to staging, you can just add the tags like run all the tests that are there in feature C and D, which are the impact, which impacts feature B actually, right? Or vice versa. So literally, this is what we call it as sanity pack to make sure that the impact is not getting impacted in other areas. So this is what we call it as sanity pack, and it is really, really important for us to run smoke test and sanity test before we move it to UAT or prod or whatever it is actually. So I think, yeah, so these are the major differences between smoke and sanity.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Cool.
Thank you very much. There's one question again. So AI, one question about AI. Is AI going to replace software testing?
Oh, that's very controversial question actually, but still, see, there are lots of things actually. So I still remember when I initially started my career 15 years back, and I'm talking about still 1 decade back, right? So 25 years back. I know that developers had just Notepad. So they just wanted to write all the code and they have to compile it using a compiler and then push the code and all, right? Then came the IDEs. So IDEs are something that helped developers to write the code much faster and more effective actually, right? So it's not a threat. It's not going to replace, this one, right? So literally, what I personally believe here as well is AI that is getting evolved these days we as testers or developers should start thinking it as a guidance system actually, which is going to help us out in doing things much faster and more reliable as well actually. So that's the kind of a thing that we wanted to think from a Gen AI perspective that is getting, evolved these days. And I don't think so, at least for next few years, it's going to replace anyone. But again, with the maturity that it's going to happen, we as testers or developers, we need to make sure that we have to get up to the mark actually on what is that we can make use of them, how can we make use of them, and so on and so forth. So ideally, to my knowledge, I don't think so for now actually.
Wonderful. Cool. So there is another question, a couple more questions, so let's do these. So thank you from Primraj. How can you promote a build to production without regression testing in CI/CD phase in your diagram?
Please don't do that actually. So not without doing regression test cases actually. So literally speaking, in my experience, what we have done is choose. Okay, I was talking about test audit, right? So the test audit is the place where we need to choose the test cases that are more robust actually, that are so solid. And we need to run those things before we move to production. So our ultimate goal, which our CTO was insisting as is testing in production, isn't it? So that's something that we need to make sure that, we are just going to, run our regression test cases just before we do that actually. Yeah, that's pretty good actually to do that. So please don't avoid doing that actually.
As an example, then I know like React Native, the native thing is about 2 hours the test pack.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
At Checkatrade, what is the sort of standard test pack you'd expect to run as part of the CI/CD pipeline versus like an overnight one? What's the kind of average length you'd kind of target?
Try to reduce the number of devices actually. Now,
Yeah.
say for example, in the regression pack, during the pipelines, what we can do is we can just try to reduce the number of devices that we are trying to run it. Say for example, try with one iOS and one Android actually, just to make sure that both are working fine. Or do one thing, just take one latest Android version, one latest iOS, one slightly older in the other one. So try to do it in this way. In this, we can just make sure that most of our, high-end, high users are working on. Now, say for example, using our Google Analytics, right? We just see how many users are using what sort of, devices actually. So literally plan for those devices, in fact, and then run it so that it will not impact major level of users, major amount of users. But at the night time, when we are trying to run it, we can just solve with all the users actually. So yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, we will double check and review our diagrams. If it's not clear, there definitely is test packs running in staging before we push.
It's running, yeah.
Cool. Anonymous user, how long would it take to adopt QA ops ways of working?
See, it depends on the organization level actually. So how many people we have and all those kind of stuffs, because it's not going to be overnight process. So like I said earlier, do gap analysis to understand what you have now, what is it you're trying to achieve, and how much time it's going to do that. Use lots and lots of principles like return of investment. Use lots of test automation, KPIs to measure where you are. It's going to be continuously evolving one. It's not like in next 1 year I'm going to evolve. So you need to do the maths. You need to do the lots of research to make sure that in this particular time, your organization is going to get into this particular state. That's why the TMMI comes into picture as well, actually.
Perfect. I'm just aware we've gone over our time.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you. If you need to run at this point, I really appreciate your time. It's been great to kind of share this journey. We'll just stay on for a couple of minutes to answer that last question. But yeah, if you need to run, I think, yeah, thank you so much. The last question we had was, do you have the right measurements in place to drive the desired behavior of this test approach?
Do you have the right measurements in place to drive the desired behavior? Yes. So that's where we just started looking into the KPIs, right? So where we just wanted to see our mindset at this particular point of time is automation first approach. That's where we started measuring all the KPIs like test automation efficiency, test automation steadiness. We use test observability to see the build stability of those particular test cases. So we are having all these kind of measurements at this point of time using the observability metrics. And then we are slightly increasing our scope, and we are slightly increasing the way that we wanted to work so that we can fit into this particular into this QA ops strategy.
Cool. I think, yeah, the metrics has been one of the great success stories. Certainly when we've got teams that own a service and own a particular area, that's worked really well and they get very clear metrics.
Exactly, yeah.
If we were talking through challenges, there's a couple of platforms where multiple teams are interacting on the same platform. That's been a bit of a challenge to kind of segregate and aggregate, attribute
Correct, yeah.
test failures to a certain team, or to make sure that each team's getting their metrics up. That's been a bit of a challenge from our side. We're still working on that. If I'm honest, that's not one we've solved yet.
Exactly, yeah. It's just the continuous process, right, of learning and implementing. We can't get into the 100% mode at all anytime. So yeah. Cool.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions that have come in. So I just want to say, oh, one more snuck in. We'll do that one as well. If you're happy, Kiri. How much time did you spend writing flaky tests?
Wrestling
with flaky tests and test data to get your tests to consistently report the correct result. Yeah, it wasn't instant.
It's definitely not instant, actually. We have done a lot of, we have faced a lot of flaky tests, actually, guys, to be very honest, because most of our QAs and developers are learning now and then implementing it, right? So there is a high chance of flakiness. So what we have done here is we started building our own framework, the test automation framework, which is more stable, actually, right? And then hand it over to the developers to write test cases on top of it. So we got help from the lead developers to help us out in designing that particular framework more stable. And then we gave it to the developers just like that to start writing test cases on top of that, which was very useful for us, actually. So it didn't happen overnight. It took almost like 3 to 4 months for us to identify the gaps, isn't it? And then come up with the base framework. We added on top of these things, and then we started measuring everything using the KPIs and other stuff. So yeah, definitely it's a huge effort. Probably if you are thinking to implement this one in your organization, please keep in mind that you need to invest 3 to 6 months to do the gap analysis, actually. Else it will be very difficult for next 1 year for this particular implementation.
I think, yeah, getting that buy-in for that kind of time is key.
Exactly. Yeah.
All the way up to our CEO, CTO. We've got a method. The business wants new things. That's always the case, but we fix first. We make sure that we can go fast, and that there is buy-in in those that methodology to make sure that we're not just burning the road behind us, that we are making sure that we're in a good place. So you have to have that buy-in all the way through the business. Otherwise,
definitely, yes. I think that's where the blitz testing was also very helpful for us, Kia, because we didn't sacrifice the quality when we were trying to implement these things, actually. We know that there are lots of flaky tests, but again, we did this particular blitz testing, which was a great idea for us to, identify issues during the early stage itself, before we got into production. So yeah, please think about blitz testing and then start implementing that as well, actually. Yeah.
Perfect. So let's wrap it up there. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone for joining us. It's been fantastic to kind of share the journey with you. And yeah, please follow Checkatrade on LinkedIn to find out about upcoming webinars. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you've got any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kia.